moving the dirt everywhere. We may have to quit. This stupid camera, I'm just ready to throw it in the trash. I recorded a whole bunch of cool stuff this morning, had it out there so you can see loading and dumping, and I don't think it got any of it. A GoPro piece of crap. Jesus. Getting hard to see. Matt's behind me somewhere. Jake's on the oar. I don't know where I'm going. Somewhere over in this direction. Ooh, good morning. Clear as a bell. Calm. Very quiet. Way over there you can see the Grand Tetons sticking up. That means it's a clear day. That's probably 150, 175 miles away. Let's go see if we can get the filthy horde going this morning. Man, it blew out here Saturday. Everything's covered in a layer of dust. I heat the afterburner. Matt's been out here super early. He's way over there. He's out. He's got a 357 Magnum lever action rifle. He's out looking for a deer. All right, you ready to go, filthy whore? Back motor hasn't been starting too good. I think we got some glow plug connection issues somewhere. Let's see if she'll go. I was heating it up there while I was letting that warm up. Fuel pressure gauge is probably kaput. I may need to put a filter on it. Hasn't been changed for 3 years. Yeah. Like that. Runs on the fuel. So I needed a new rear throttle control up in the tractor on number 1, and I don't know, apparently Bendix Westinghouse must not be building the original, so there was an update replacement. It was about $1,000. When I get a minute, I'll have to show it to you. It's got a massive aluminum pedal on it. Not really sure I like that. Don't know if I can adapt the original pedal to it or not, but bad thing is it's going to need a lot of replumbing because of the way the fittings are going to go in. So I was just going to tear it out and replace it, but it's going to be a bigger project than I thought. So problem is sometimes that rear motor runs pretty fast. It's like it won't idle down. It keeps putting air pressure to it. Hitch up. I'll start heating the rear plugs. Got a problem there. You heat the rear plugs, the trans sync light glows. That tells me somewhere in the system there's a wire that's, I don't know, bleeding into that. That's not good. So that light will flash every time it shifts. If it comes on bright, it means you've come unsynchronized. And what they do is they kill the high pressure so it won't shift. It maintains loop pressure. I had a lot of guys on my video how to operate push-pull scrapers telling me you never turn those off, and it's like, yeah, that's why it's there. You can turn it off all you want. As long as she's in neutral, it still pumps loop pressure. Doesn't hurt a thing. You'd be surprised how much fuel you can save and wear and tear on that rear motor. If you don't need it, kick it off. I suppose on big jobs and stuff, that's just another thing they have to teach guys. And they don't want to if you don't know what you're doing, I suppose you can do damage. I mean, you don't turn it off under power. You don't turn it on under power. You kind of got to be Jpaydirt to figure that one out. All right, here we go. So somebody wanted to know what kind of horsepower these are. So originally from the factory, the fronts were rated 415 and the backs were 225. But the rear engines originally were a non-after-cooled 3306. The filthy ore has the old engine in it, rear, so it's a 225. This is a 637D power pack. It's after-cooled, so it's rated 250. Then the rear power pack in number 1 is a 3306B. It's a DI motor, after-cooled. And originally that motor, when I got it, was rated at 300 horse. It was in a grinder machine. Anyway, they caught it on fire from all the wood chips, and it only had like 300 hours on it. So I took it and fixed it. I had to put a turbo. I had to have the fuel system rebuilt. And what else? So I had to take the rear bell housing off and the pan, I think. And then on the front I had to put the motor mount set up for scraper. And I painted it because it was like an ugly gray. And so when they did the fuel system, I had them set it for 270 because that's what a 637E would be. But the front motors, we always bump up the rack setting a little bit, and then this one's got the Switchblade turbo, which pumps massive amounts of air compared to the old T18s. And it's doubled the oil life on this one because it's reduced the smoke. We got to get one on number 2. I got one on my D9, got one on my C15. They're an amazing invention. If you got older cat equipment, you really want to make it have some power and get up and go, change up to a Switchblade. So this is a direct inject motor. This is called the new Scroll fuel system here. It'll fire right up. This is the PAPR. So this is the power unit here that does the blowing, and it's got a belt around it. Normally you'd wear it on your waist, but can't do that in a scraper seat, so we strap that to the ROPS tube behind the seat. And then this is the hose that goes to your helmet, and this is the helmet here, and this visor part flips up, and then you've just got a little, see if I can get it out of here. So this is going to be cool because we can use this for setup for welding. You've seen cadets at Cutting Edge Engineering use this setup. Welding one's a little different. So this deal here goes down around your chin, seals it off, sorta, kinda. Blows air through here, and it's going to come out the back. So it's kind of like a hard hat too. And then you can get this with peel off deals, so when it gets scratched and dirty, keep it nice so you can see out of it. We'll be able to use that for sandblasting. It's got a cartridge set up. You can put a deal on there to do painting, all kinds of cool stuff. Anyway, that was about 1,600 bucks. Okay, Matt says my radiator screen's plugged. Yeah, it's pretty dirty. Honk. So we cover these with just fiberglass window screen, door screen. There we go. Then, geez, look at the buildup. I'm gonna take a shovel after it. This is the only scraper that has a functioning warning system. It's got a whole bunch of pressure gauges there. So if you lose fuel pressure, oil pressure, if the converter overheats or the engine, it'll honk the horn. Anyway, the filthy horn never plugs up because it's got rear fenders. I wish I could find nice straight fenders to put on these other two. was close. Forgot about that hitch coming down.
It's on the sideboard, of course.
That ain't that. No. That's not even plugged. That indicator's a liar. Feel that. It's all dirty here though. It's been sucking past it, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Why? Stupid thing.
Fuck, I hope your
Yeah.
secondary isn't plugged.
Yeah, we'll find that out real quick, won't we?
Shit, we don't have any of those, do we?
I don't know. Where was that leaking? Right there? On the bottom? Why would that be leaking? I'm gonna need a paper towel and some ether, see if I can clean that goo off, whatever it is. Oh, you got some. Why is that leaking? Look at that. I'm sure that safety's plugged.
Look how dirty that is.
Yeah, what's going on there? Is that a cat filter?
Yeah, that's the one I think we had to glue.
Well, so what's pinching it here? Just dick the seal up.
I don't know.
And it looks dirty.
Well, that's why you need a safety to save your ass. I've never seen one leak like that. That's not even.
That was just folded over.
How tight did you tighten them?
What about this?
How tight did you tighten them, Matt?
You can see from the.
Didn't seem like this one was very tight when I went to undo it. Might check them other ones. Make
Let's
sure.
look at.
You can look at the filter. I crushed it.
We'll find out real quick. Put some juice to her and see what it does. Sucks it up. Well, that sucks. Like I say, that's what safeties are for. Save your ass. Okay, another one in the bag. Had some questions. Somebody wanted to know how that cushion hitch worked. Guess I should have filmed it with it on. So there's a hydraulic cylinder up there, if you can see it. And then these H-links. And on this side, there's a couple of nitrogen accumulators. I should just get up there. How about that? So this system, there's the hydraulic cylinder in there. It's hydraulics over dry nitrogen. So these are the accumulators with dry nitrogen in it. I think one's got 800 psi and the other one's got 1200 psi. That's called the leveling and charge valve. So with the lever in the cab in the down position, what it does is it brings the cylinder down and pressurizes the top rod end with oil to hold it down, and then it also charges these, and that holds it down. And then when you pop the lever up, it cuts loose all this pressurized nitrogen and goes. And there's pistons in here, oil on one side, nitrogen on the top. So it shoves that hydraulic oil down through and into the cylinder and raises it up into the ride position. And then there's a linkage under here that bolts to the cap on that 1H link, and that sets the ride height, and that you adjust it with that lever. So with it in the ride position, this is called the hitch tree right here. So this is going to be going up and down like this. And that takes all the shock out of the scraper and the tractor. Makes them ride like a Cadillac. And then, as you can see, there's millions of hoses and cables on these. And you can see I'm pretty anal. When I put everything in, it all gets organized and gets rubber in under here so it can't get cut. And then, like I was telling you, I use lots of this plastic wrap to protect the hoses, especially on all the hoses that go under the hitch, under there, over to the control valve. Anyway, they'll last forever if you do that. So you saw me change the air filter this morning because this was clear up into the red and it was leaking and the safety was catching the dirt. So the filter wasn't very heavy at all, so it pulled it up a little bit was all. So you'd think that if the safety was plugged, it would have pulled it right back up to the red. But one of the things I've learned about these air filter indicators is they're about as accurate as nothing. I don't know what they're calibrated for, but I know on the other two scrapers, it will actually pull this up so you can see some of the yellow with brand new filters. But with the Switchblade turbo, it'll suck it way up with brand new filters. And all I can assume is that's because it pumps so much air, but they're not real accurate. So we got them fueled. Need to take a shovel. Look at how much dust is built up back here. It's absolutely insane. Anyway, we're gonna tomorrow move them to our next rock covering adventure. Anyway, we've run the dog crap out of these things for the last 2 weeks, 3. Filthy whores holding together. Oops, can't say that word. This old slug needs a switchblade. It really needs a switchblade bad. Give it some oomph. What else? I can't. Oh, somebody asked me why we park them with the ejectors ahead. So that's pretty much standard procedure with scrapers. You run on a scraper outfit. Several reasons. Number one, you can see that the oil is over the sight glass in this. With the ejector all the way forward, that's going to consume the maximum amount of oil. And so you check it with the ejector forward, apron down, cushion hitch down, the engine off. And with these old units, we've always found that you fill them till you can't get any more in. And that doesn't mean it's full clear to here, but there's a tube that comes down in here, and you can only put so much in, and it basically fills it to here with the ejector forward. And then as the ejector goes back, it's going to put some more in it. But it's just, this system was never really designed to have enough capacity. Should have had more capacity, because when you get on side hills or steep stuff and the ejector's forward, it sucks up enough oil that it'll kind of cavitate the pump. So as long as you fill them way up into here as much as you can get, you don't have a problem. The other reason is the oiler, the guy with the grease gun, needs to get in here and look at stuff. So you've got on an old C model, you've got to grease these tail rollers here every day. And then we grease the floor rollers and the top side rollers. You got to be able to get in here to grease the U-joints. You always want to keep these greased up good. Last thing you need is a driveline failure, because it will break your transmission housing all to heck. So the way this system works is this rear transmission is a 4-speed transmission, torque converter drive, all gears torque converter drive. And here's the wiring harness that comes down to it. And right up there you see that box with the cable plugged into it. That is the switch in there. They call it a clock switch. Every time that it shifts, it rotates that clock in there. And then there's 2 solenoids there, upshift and downshift. And then over on the top is a solenoid just like that's called the lubed solenoid. And what the lube solenoid is for is if this transmission ever comes unsynchronized with the front, it will automatically kill the juice to the lube solenoid, and it will cut all pressure inside the transmission to the clutches. There'll be no, all you're going to get is lube pressure. That's it. You're not going to get high pressure. That way you can't damage anything. They're really foolproof. You just don't really have a lot of problems with them. Sometimes the clock in there goes bad, the contacts get dirty, you clean them up, put them back together, they go again, or you just buy new ones. So the way it works is the front transmission is an 8-speed transmission, and reverse, first, and neutral are manually selected, and they're all converter drive. 3rd through 8th are direct drive. It eliminates the converter through a one-way roller clutch. And then the way you control the engine on the back is, that's an air pot right there onto the throttle, the governor lever. And in the cab you've got a pedal. The more you push it, it's like an air regulator, the more air it puts to the back. And so with an 8-speed transmission, how's that going to work with a 4-speed in the back? Well, so the rear transmission synchronizes with the front transmission completely in 2, 4, 6, and 8. So when you put this transmission in gear, in first gear, this is part of the automatic selector group, and this will rotate, and this rotates this clock switch in there, sends juice to the back, and that sends a momentary signal to the upshift solenoid. The back one goes into first gear, and as soon as it rotates that clock switch back there, it disconnects the signal, and then your signal to the upshift solenoid stops. And then you go to second, this shifts again, but the rear one does not shift. So when this transmission's in second and that one back there is in first, it's synchronized. Now, how does that work? So when this one's in first and that one's in first back there, there's enough slippage in the converter to take care of that. But that transmission back there doesn't match the front one until the front one's in second. So it only matches in 2, 4, 6, and 8. So then you go along and it goes to shift to third gear, and the back one will shift. Now this is the confusing part. Even though it only synchronizes with the front in 2, 4, 6, 8, the back one's going to shift in 3, 5, and 7. So it shifts in the odd gears. So when this one shifts to third, that one back there shifts to second, and it kind of takes the bang out of the front one when it shifts, because the back one's pushing hard. And then when you go to fourth, the back one doesn't shift, only the front one, and then you're synchronized exactly. So in other words, the converter in the back transmission takes up for the difference in speeds. If you were to run it, the tractor in third gear, and the back one clear to the floor, do it long enough, hard enough, it's going to start heating the converter in the back. It'd take a long time, but it'll do it. So we try to run in even gears. Once you get it in even gears, everything's synchronized. It works great. So anyway, this transmission, once you bring it up into third and above, it's going to semi-automatically select the speed that you need. And the way that does that is inside here is a shift governor. And you got A leg, B leg, and C leg. And so basically this senses the ground speed, the output shaft of the transmission, and inside this little governor in here are 3 slugs. And so the faster it spins, it'll move the one slug against the pressure, and it will send a signal into the automatic controls and tell it it's time to shift. And each one of these, I believe, let's see, it's going to control 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so you got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then as it slows down, the slug moves back, and that'll automatically downshift it. So the way that you hold it in the gear, if you don't want it to downshift, there's a transmission hold pedal, and you saw that in the video where the tranny wouldn't shift. 2 pedals there. The one towards the steering column is a diff lock. The one this way is the trans hold. So you push on the trans hold, and it will hold this transmission in any gear you want. Matter of fact, if you're in any of the direct drive gears, if you hold it, it will come to a stop and literally kill the engine. And so I had some guys telling me that they just hold the diff lock and the trans hold. Well, it's virtually impossible if you're loading in rough material to do that, because you got your feet on the 2 pedals, and then when you're loaded and you need to get unhooked, you need to let go of the diff lock but not the trans hold. And if your foot slips off and it upshifts, about the time the guy in the back is trying to get his bail off your hook, you're going to slam it. You're going to really go bang. And so it's easiest just to put them down in second gear and load, and then when you're loaded, pull them up and go. The new ones, you have a button on your control lever to lock the trans hold in to hold your gear, because the selector is a slapstick shifter. I think it has reverse for or reverse, neutral, first and second, and then it's just drive after that. And then your diff lock is like a old-timey dimmer switch on the floor, but it doesn't click. You have to hold it down. It's a switch. You have to hold it down to keep your diff lock. So those are a piece of cake. Let go of the diff lock, click your trans hold, and let it shift. But these old school ones are just a little bit different, and I find it easier to just put it in second manually. The Filthy Whore is the only one that has a downshift inhibitor on it. With these new slapstick models, there's absolutely no possibility of downshifting them manually because the shifter won't allow you to, because it's just got D for drive. And I suppose they have an inhibitor, so some idiot ran it clear to reverse, it wouldn't go in reverse. But that was an option back in the day, and they're a great device for idiots that can't run a shifter. I mean, you can't hold your hand on that shifter, because if you hit a bump and slammed it down, you're gonna downshift and overspeed the engine and ruin it. But none of the other ones have it. The only drawback to a downshift inhibitor is when you're trying to slow this old girl down to get hooked up to the one in front of you. When I'm running the one in front of him, I make sure and slow way down, because you got to get this thing out of third gear down into second, and you can't select second manually, so you have to slow it way down to get it to come out of third. So that's the only drawback to a downshift inhibitor. Anyway, so hope that answers your question. A lot of people want to know how much fuel we burn. As a general rule of thumb, they'll burn 150 gallons each in an 8-hour shift, but that doesn't hold true if you run both engines all the time. I have ran this one in some really tough conditions, both engines wound to the hilts, and I burned about 22 gallons an hour. And that's why I turn the back motor off if I don't need it. If I don't need it to get to the dump and I don't need it to get back to the cut, turn it off. It's not going to hurt anything. Absolutely not going to hurt. I've driven them 30 miles down the highway with the back engine idling. It doesn't hurt the transmission. It's not like dragging your automatic transmission without the driveline removed. It's not like that, because engine's running, it's pumping oil, it's lubing everything. It's not a big deal. Otherwise, why would they put a neutral run switch on them? They didn't want to let you be able to turn them off. So anyway, everybody does things different. Guys who run these in some big construction outfit, that's probably mandatory, but it's also a lot of old, I don't know, weird wives' tales and stuff telling you you can't manually select the gears to load, you can't turn the rear engine tranny to neutral, blah blah blah. I think it's just a preference. Guys like to think they know everything there is to know about running push-pulls. If we'd have had a camera 20 years ago, I'd have showed you stuff that had just made your hair curl. Stuff we were doing with these, it was insane. We had to dig a hole in a tight spot, and I can't tell you how many times the Filthy Whore was on top of the back of my Stinger, and never once did we poke a hole in the radiator or ruin it. And that's another question I get a lot is, Jeff, why don't you have the protective bars over your radiator? You ruin your radiator and your hard nose. No, again, those are training wheels for morons. And there's lots of them out there. Anyway, we've never ever hit even the handrails, ever. And the bottom of that push plate has been stuck up on here many times. You just have to pay attention. You got skin in the game, you're going to take care of stuff, you're going to pay attention. You're just getting paid a wage and you don't give a crap, yeah, those guys ruin stuff. So That's what they are, training wheels. I'm gonna piss some people off. I know I am. All right, so I gotta get out of here. I gotta go look at another job, the one we're going to next, and then go home and look at another job. So it's time to leave.
Ladies and gentlemen, in preparation for departure, please check to see that your seatbelts are securely fastened, your window shades are.
I was gonna tell you, we got the big one done here, except on the far end. He had a set budget here for what he wanted to spend, so we're at the limit. We've spent his money. We didn't get all the way across it. That's a big chunk going over that way, but let's see. We had 6 rock piles out here to cover, so we got this one on the end of the pivot. We got one over there and then a whole bunch over there. You saw it in the drone video. Anyway, it's done. Turn the water on. I should have asked him to turn the water on about a week before I got here. Put down about 1 inch. Then we'd still had dust in the cup, but we wouldn't have had it as bad out in the field. It wouldn't got powder up to your ankles. It still would have been dusty, but not near as bad.